Hi everyone, welcome back to Hacktendo, and especially welcome back to Computers for Beginners and Elderlies or Seniors. We'll be continuing the series in episode 3 as parts of a computer. So in this video, we'll be going over the parts of a computer. We will only be doing um, we'll only be doing parts on PCs or desktops. Like I said, throughout the series and throughout the real world, you hear people morely say PCs. So we'll be going over the parts only in PCs. We'll be doing a laptop in another video, possibly maybe the next episode, but whenever I have a chance, I will do that for you. Maybe it's going to be the next episode, but yeah. So other than that, let's begin the video. Okay, so parts of a desktop PC. So the desktop PC is comprised of so many parts inside for it to, function. The vital parts, for it to be able to turn on and for you to use it. So first things first, I'm just going to show you guys this diagram. And in this diagram is all the parts inside the PC, the computer. It is missing a vital part here, but that's mainly because this vital part is integrated, but I'll get into that much later. So looking at this diagram here, in the middle is your standard desktop PC. So usually that thing is called a PC case or a computer case. Followed by, we have the motherboard, which is down there. Motherboard is basically like the skeleton of the computer. Basically, all the components fit onto that motherboard, and the motherboard helps those parts communicate with each other. Then we have the processors or CPU. We have the RAM modules. We have the optical drives. We have hard drives. We have heat sinks. We have floppy drives. Well, floppy drives are obsolete. We don't use floppy drives anymore. I don't think you will find a computer with still using floppy drives unless the end user decides to opt in and add that to their rig. You won't see those, in this day and age. Floppy drives was back then, computers was a thing, but we don't use floppy drives anymore. So you probably won't even hear me mention that at all in this video. So you got system fans and you have the power supply. All right, so those are your vital parts. So the part here that's missing actually is the GPU, which is a graphics processing unit. So it's similar to the CPU, but again, we're going to go over each part. And yeah, so let's get on. Right, so the first computer part we're going to go over with, which is the main thing, because what's holding all those parts in it is the computer case. So a computer case, also known as a chassis, is the enclosure that houses the critical components of a computer system. So it serves as the structural framework for the motherboard, CPU, GPU, storage drives, power supply, and other peripherals. So basically, like I told you in the beginning, the computer case is basically the body. Like, think of the human body. The computer case is basically your body, your outside body, and it holds all of the components inside of it. So you cannot. I mean, it is possible you could run a computer without a computer case, but it's just, you're just risking of having dust, someone touching it, electrical, shock and stuff like that. So this is why they made a computer case to hold all those components inside. Also, if you were to build a computer without putting it in a computer case, you can't move it. It's gonna have to stay right there. It has to be, stationary at a desk or whatever you build it on. And in order for you to move that, you have to disconnect every component out of it just to move it out. So this is why a computer case is there. You can put all those parts inside, hold it together, and you can actually move it to desk, place to place, or whatever. So that is a computer case. Motherboards. So motherboards, like I said, is basically the skeleton of the computer. So the motherboard is the central hub in a computer that connects, powers, and communicates between all key components. So those key components are the CPU, RAM, graphics card or GPU, and storage, SSDs and HDDs. We get to that soon. It acts as the backbone of the system, determining compatibility and upgradability. So the motherboard, whenever if you're going to choose to build a computer, you always want to start off with the motherboard. And main reason why is because you want to make sure that all the parts that you're putting into that motherboard and computer is compatible with it. So the motherboards usually last a pretty good amount of time, and motherboards, you can change the motherboard, but most motherboards usually buy a motherboard that is upgradable. So for example, a motherboard that is, let's say, that released in 2017 and it supported 7 gen i7 CPUs. The motherboard, if you get a motherboard, if you do enough research and you look at the motherboard, you'll see that the motherboard is compatible with 7 gen i7 processors, but it is also future proof to support the next gen, which will be 8th gen or 9th gen i7 CPUs. So motherboards, basically, whenever you build a computer, you want to make sure, or if you're buying a computer, you want to do a little research on the motherboard, what kind of motherboard it uses, so you can determine if the motherboard is upgradable in the future. If you want to really future proof it or keep it for a long time. So motherboard, everything fits onto the motherboard. RAM, CPU, GPU, HDDs, everything fits onto the motherboard. CPU, or Central Processing Unit. So the CPU is the primary component of a computer that performs most of the processing and control functions, acting as the brain of the device. So the computer is basically the brain of the whole computer. So the CPU, it processes, it thinks, it does everything needed. So remember in the previous episodes where we, the end users, input information and the computer processes that information. So the CPU is doing that. The CPU is what processes that information for us to give us the output. So the CPU is responsible for executing instructions from computer programs, performing calculations, and managing the flow of data between different hardware components. So the CPU, basically the CPU works with other hardware in the computer, the different parts of the computer. The CPU works hand in hand with it. You cannot use a underpowered CPU with a high-end, computer product like a GPU, because that's something called bottleneck, where it's not really compatible with each other and it causes low performance. So CPU is the brain of the computer. There are many CPUs out there. The two main CPUs for desktops, laptops are AMD's and Intel's. For Macs, this is the same for laptops, by the way. For Macs, they used to do run on Intel processors until they transitioned to something called Apple Silicon, which is their very own CPU chips, which are pretty darn good. So you've already heard, the M series chips. I think during this week they released the M5 chips now. So that Apple uses their very own CPUs. They use Apple Silicon, while regular desktop laptops, they use Intel and AMD chips. So that's basically what a CPU is. The CPU heatsink and cooler. You cannot, and I repeat, you cannot run a CPU in a desktop computer or a laptop without some sort of heatsink or cooler. So a CPU heatsink is a crucial component that absorbs and dissipates the heat generated by your CPU. So the CPU, like I said, the CPU is the most important part of the computer. It's the brain. The CPU processes, it takes in information, it disputes that information. It's working hard. And when something is working hard, what does it generate? it generates heat. So the CPU is always working on the clock. Like as soon as you hit that power button on the computer, the CPU is already processing information. It's already processing the input of you pushing that power button, performing a post test, performing to run into the operating system, starting up essential programs for it to run for us, the end users, to use. And that already generates heat. If the CPU is running without a cooler of some sort, and it will overheat and it will burn. Like you will literally smell burn, like a little burn smell to it. So now some well, not some, I believe in this day and age, usually CPUs have something called, well, not in the CPU, I think the motherboard. So there's something in the motherboard that if it detects that the CPU is running over a certain temperature, it will shut itself off. It's like a safe. It's like a fail-safe method. Pretty much like a car engine. Like when the car's computer detects that there's something wrong with the engine, like a misfiring cylinder or something like that, it puts the car into a limp mode. It reduces the power, so it prevents the engine from overworking to damage it any further. So the computers are the same thing. Whenever a CPU goes over its optical temperature, the motherboard will send a message to the motherboard to turn off the computer. Same thing for any modern gaming systems as well, like the PS5. If the PS5, PS4, whatever, detects that it is running too hot, it will show a message to you saying that the system is too hot, and it will turn off to prevent any further damage. So the heatsink is a very crucial component to it. So it prevents overheating and damage. And most modern CPUs cooling solutions combine a heatsink with a fan or liquid cooling for optimal performance. So there are three types of CPU cooling methods, and that is, one is the heatsink, which is it's like a piece of like a aluminum metal or copper, and it basically just sits on top of the CPU to help dissipate the heat. Then you have the CPU cooler, the CPU fan. Usually these go hand in hand. They usually are together, so you have the heatsink and the CPU fan together to it. I usually use the Cooler Master Hyper 212 Evo dual fan setup. It's pretty good cooling fan. I always use it for all my builds. And then you have the last one, which is liquid cooling. I personally never use liquid cooling, so I can't really explain how it works and stuff like that. But basically, what it does is, they say liquid cooling is the best method, but it is a little risky. So, like the name implies, liquid cooling, it's cooling your PC with a radiator, and they have these little pipes that's running from it, and those pipes are going directly to the CPU to cool it down. So it's basically, again, like a car. You have the car radiator, you have the water pump. It's basically the same thing as a computer. So that's basically what is a CPU heatsink and cooler. Very critical component in a computer. RAM. We have RAM, and no, not the brand RAM vehicles, but RAM. So RAM stands for Random Access Memory, or RAM for short. Is a computer's short-term, high-speed, volatile memory used to temporarily store active data and machine code for immediate processor access. So let's stop right there. So the word volatile. So volatile memory is something that once the computer's running, it stores information, right? But the minute that the computer loses power, you turn off the power, or something happens, the power gets unplugged or whatever, that RAM, it loses all the information retained into it. So let's say you put in a command saying that, hey, remind me let's say you send something to the RAM, like, hey, remind me at 2 p.m. that we have immunity to attend to. Power shuts off, you turn it back on, the RAM doesn't remember what you told it to. But that's not the case. That wouldn't be sent to RAM. But programs uses RAM, and it has to be volatile, because if it's, it's gonna be like the information to the RAM, it needs to be able to temporarily store the data, because if it keeps on keeping the data, then the RAM will get full. So it enables fast multitasking, improved system responsiveness, and with 16 gigs plus capacity, it supports modern gaming and heavy applications. So basically, in this day and age, the term 8 gigs minimum is not a thing anymore. You need at least 16 gigs. Yeah, sure, you can run things with 8 gigs, but you're not going to get much out of it. You cannot run multiple applications with it. You need at least 16 gigs minimum. I always run my desktop, not my laptop, but I usually run desktops with a minimum of 16 gigs of RAM. And that's because, when you doing, programs, playing games, or let's say you want to have multiple tabs open up, you want to make sure your computer is nice and smooth. You want to keep it nice and smooth. And the RAM helps with that. The more RAM you have, the better. But like I said, in this day and age, 16 gigs is the minimum that you need for RAM. Don't go for 8 unless you're a really basic user and you're just, using it to web browse, watch movies and stuff on it. But 16 gigs is the minimum. So you got different types of RAM. Your desktop usually use, standard size RAMs. The laptop use SODIMM RAMs. Nowadays, I don't think SODIMM RAMs are a thing anymore, because everything is now being integrated into the motherboard. Like for example, Apple Silicon, Apple's MacBooks, iMacs, their M series chips, they have the RAM actually built into the processor. So whatever RAM that you get is what you get. So if you decide to cheap out, use on a budget, you need a laptop right away, and you buy 8 gig RAM model, you're stuck with that 8 gig RAM model. You cannot upgrade it. Comparable to PCs, where you're on a budget now, you can buy the 8 gig module just for now to keep the computer running, and then later on in time you can upgrade that to a 16 gig, a 24 gig, a 32 gig, 64 gigs, whatever. So that's one of the great features of a desktop computer. It is upgradable. You can swap out parts, you can upgrade, make it future proof. But for laptops, or at least for Macs, whatever you buy from the store is what you get. So whenever you're buying, make sure that you know the exact things that you're going to do with the laptop, or you're going to regret having it and buying it down the road. So that's RAM for you. GPU. So this is the part that was missing from that diagram. It is technically, I won't really say it's vital, because usually there are GPUs are usually integrated onto the motherboard. So let me explain. So GPU, or graphics processing unit, is a specialized electronic circuit designed to rapidly perform mathematical calculations required for rendering computer graphics and images. So sorry about that. So basically, in simplest term, a graphics card basically processes graphics and images for us to see. So in order for you to play games, like console gaming on a computer, you need a graphics card, a GPU, because the GPU takes the stress away from the CPU in order to run those high intense graphics gaming for you. It's not like it's taking stress away from the CPU. The CPU is not going to be able to handle all that high polygons, all the graphics, the rendering and stuff like that. That's what the GPU is for. So GPU is its own processor, and With it, it allows you to play those high-end games with, ray tracing and stuff like that, shadows, reflections. Um, so, and it allows you to, again, allows you to watch 4K, movies, 8K or whatever and stuff like that. So I won't really say it is a important part in the computer because most motherboards, they have something called a integrated GPU. And integrated, like I said, integrated, it means it's built into the motherboard. Usually integrated, or I think it's called a desecrate GPU. Basically, they're not really good GPUs. They are only for, just for you to get you up and running, for you to, view things off the computer, for you to watch, basic things, maybe play a little game, but not really high intense game unless it's at very low settings. That's the job of the integrated GPU. It is up to you, the end user, if you want to play high intense gaming or even do more graphical images, edit videos and stuff, like render videos and stuff like that. You will have to buy and upgrade the GPU in the motherboard. So the GPU is separate. It usually has its own fan because it is its own processor. So it requires its own heatsink and fan. So don't worry, you don't really have to go out and buy a separate heatsink and fan for it. As most GPUs you buy, it already comes equipped with it. So you don't have to worry yourself about that. So that's the reason why it has CPU heatsink and fan. It is very crucial. The GPU even needs it because without it, the GPU is going to overheat and it's going to, turn itself off. So again, very critical components. So GPU, most important. Again, it's not required to have a computer up and running because as most motherboards comes with it, has its own integrated GPU. But if you do want to upgrade it to play high intense games, you will need a GPU. And GPU stands for Graphics Processing Unit. So that's a GPU for you. The power supply. So the power supply is again another crucial component. So a power supply, or PSU for short, purpose is to convert electrical power from a source into usable DC power for internal components within a computer, server, or other electrical device. So a PSU, or power supply, function is not to supply power, but is used instead as a converter of reliable power. So it's basically anything that you plug into a wall. That's something called AC power. So computers and its components inside of it uses something called DC power. And the job of the power supply is to take that AC power from the wall, wherever you plug it in, convert it into DC power so the computer can use, because you cannot really use AC power on a computer as it's going to really damage the computer and its components inside. Hence the reason why the power supply converts it into DC power for you to use. So power supply is a crucial component to start to even turn on the computer, because if there's no power, you can't start it up. So it is very important. There are many types of power supplies. Depending on it, there are different wattage. There's like 450 watts, 650 watts, 1000 watts. There are many types of wattage, and there's something called bronze certified, silver, gold, platinum certified. The main, again, if you are into building computers, you want to make sure, research the components you're going to buy, GPU and everything. You want to make sure that it can handle the power supply, because you cannot buy a 220 watt power supply and you're going to put in a RTX 550 in there, or RTX, you just do a 580, or RTX 580 GPU in there, as that GPU alone takes up like 550 watts, and you have a 220 watts in your computer, in your your rig, and if you go ahead and put in that, it's not going to turn on, or it's not going to handle the power from the GPU, because the GPU is power hungry. So you want to make sure you want to buy the correct wattage for your system. I usually go for a 750. If the price is right, I go for 1,000 watts. And most importantly, you want to look for anything that has Energy Star compliance on it, as that does help a little with the electricity bill. So that's a power supply for you. Um, Power supplies in laptops, they do not have a power supply because it's running on the battery. So the battery, it's already, it's converting, the battery converts the AC to a DC power to the laptop and stuff. You have the AC adapter, again, that converts AC to DC to charge the battery in your laptop. So laptops usually don't have power supplies, but the power supply is inside the AC adapter. That's the job for it. So that is a power supply. Optical drives. So optical drives is not it's not a vital computer component. It was back in the days. Nowadays, you probably won't even see a computer with it anymore. Some people who build computers, they do opt to have it installed. Like me, when I'm ever building a computer, I always at least need to have an optical drive, because you don't know when you're gonna need it. But a optical drive is a computer disk drive that uses a laser beam or electromagnetic waves to read data from or write data to optical discs such as CDs, DVDs, and Blu-ray discs. So let's pause right there. So Blu-ray disc, you cannot use so if you are going to use Blu-ray disc, you want to make sure you buy a Blu-ray disc drive, because you cannot use a DVD and CD drive for Blu-ray. It is not compatible. It's not going to read it. So if you want to use Blu-ray disc, you want to buy a Blu-ray disc optical drive to be able to read and process data from Blu-ray disc. So these drives allows users to play music, watch movies, install software, or backup data from physical media. So back then in the mid 2000s and stuff like that, many software were released on disk. Even back in the gaming days. I mean, today we still use disk for gaming systems like PS5, Xbox Series, and stuff like that. Computers all used CDs for softwares. So in operating system, if you want to install Windows, you got to have the CD drive to install it, put in the drive to install Windows. You had DVDs back then, Blu-ray disc. I haven't seen, do they still make Blu-ray movies? Gotta look into that. But yeah, back then, we have CDs where you play music on it, you can burn stuff like that. So the optical drive that's what the optical drive is for. It's for you to take CDs to install them, watch movies and stuff like that on your computer. So nowadays, they don't really sell you optical drives. Like, when you buy a computer, they don't really have an optical drive, unless you build your own computer to install the optical drive, or maybe some computer manufacturers, they do opt for this optical drive installation for you to buy when you first buy the computer. But I haven't really seen a computer, with optical drives anymore. There is something called a USB optical drive, where it is a optical drive where you plug in one end to it and you plug it into your computer. But I'd rather have mine, internally, so just have it installed into the motherboard. So that's optical drive. Laptops back then also used optical drives. Nowadays, that's the thing in the past. You are not going to see optical drives in a laptop, as it is not. Laptops nowadays are so thin that it's not going to be able to even hold the optical drive. So that's basically what optical drive are. Okay, we got hard drives or storage devices. So this is again another vital component in the computer, as without it, you cannot store your data onto it, and most importantly, the operating system. So there are two types of storage devices. Well, the main storage devices. There are other storage devices, but maybe we'll talk about that in another time. But the two main storage devices are called hard disk drives, or HDD for short, and the new kind, solid state drives, or SSD for short. So we're going to start off with the HDDs, hard drives. So hard disk drives are traditional mechanical drives that use spinning magnetic platters to read, write, head to access data. They are generally less expensive per gigabyte and offer massive storage capabilities, making them ideal for bulk storage, media libraries, and backups. So hard drives have been out for a long time. So back in the days, they used to use something called a IDE hard drive, and nowadays we use SATA. So you would likely use a SATA, as that's the current standard, interface that we use for hard drives and storage media, SATA drives. So hard drives are, they're very common to get, cheaper, and they offer lots, they offer lots of gigabytes, storage. So you can pick up a 500 gig, you can pick up a 1 terabyte, a 8 terabyte, 20 terabyte hard drives. There are many sizes of them, and they're very cheap to get, depending on again the size of it. So usually on the hard drive, you install your operating system on it, your data, pictures and everything on it. Basically, whatever information you want the computer to hold for you, it stores onto the hard drive. So hard drives are mechanical, so they have, they have moving parts in them, so they do wear out a couple years. And for example, let's say you write in data to it, and you're moving the computer around. That does mess up the mechanical parts and makes them wear quicker. So that's the only drawback with hard drives, is that they are mechanical. They have moving parts that do fail over time, and because of their technologies, they are pretty slow compared to the next drive I'm going to talk about, which are solid state drives, or SSDs. So SSDs are newer non-mechanical drives that uses flash memory, which flash memory is integrated circuits, to store data. So SSDs are significantly faster, more reliable, quieter, and more energy efficient than HDDs due to lack of moving parts. So SSDs, they're very quiet. You basically don't hear it even. You're not even sure if it's on, because they don't make noise. You don't hear nothing moving inside of it. It's just basically flash. It's flash memory. Chips inside of it. And because of that, because there's no moving parts, its data speeds, read and write speeds are faster than traditional hard drives. Whenever you turn a computer, if you put your ears near a drive, you automatically hear it starting up. You hear the platter spinning and stuff like that. And even if you're writing data to the hard drive, you can hear it like ramping up, and vibrating, because it's writing the data with its platters and stuff onto the disk. So SSDs are the preferred choice for primary storage in modern computers, especially tasks that requires high performance like gaming or video editing. So usually nowadays, especially with newer gen game systems like the PS5 and Xbox Series X, those systems uses SSDs, where it's integrated into the system. And the reason why they use SSDs is because of its faster write and read speeds, which means that the game loads up faster, or even show no load screens at all. So using an SSD in a computer gives it the same benefit: faster performance, faster read and write speeds, faster loading gaming, and fast video editing. I recommend, if you are building a computer or buying a computer, you want to make sure that it has an SSD and the operating system is installed onto that SSD, because some computers, they do have SSDs and other storage, like they will have an SSD and HDD bundle where they will have like 250 gig SSD and have like a 500 gig hard drive installed. But it's funny how some of them will install the operating system onto the HDD instead of the SSD. So you want to make sure that the operating system is installed onto the SSD instead of the HDD. So SSDs do last longer than mechanical hard drives, but they do wear off too. Not everything lasts forever, but they do have a higher reliability rate compared to your traditional hard drives. And that's because, again, it does not have any moving parts. So I recommend getting an SSD. And that's your storage devices. You got other storage devices like you got USB flash drives, you got external drives, and legacy floppy drives. We ain't gonna talk about those right now, but that's basically what storage devices are. Okay, last critical computer part, and that is system fans. So system fans, again, in a computer are crucial components of the active cooling system used to manage internal temperatures, ensuring hardware stability and longevity. They circulate air to dissipate heat generated by power components like the CPU and GPU. So just like the CPU heatsink and cooler fans, the computer also relies on system fans. So because remember, the fan is only directed onto the CPU. So which means, and let's say you have a external GPU, those two components have their own fans. So what about the computer in general? What about the inside, the airflow in the computer? What about the RAM? What about the power supply? Power supplies have, some of them have fans in them, by the way. Yeah, so the motherboard, what about that? Those gets hot as well. Because the CPU is on the motherboard in that area gets hot, and the system buses, circuits, and everything gets hot as well on the motherboard. And the inside of a computer, it gets really hot. So to compact that, there are system fans. Right. So there are many system fans. They come in many different sizes. There are, different types as your traditional system fan, and then you have your RGB, which is just for style. I currently have RGB system fans in my rig because they look pretty darn cool, especially at night. But system fans are very critical components, and your system needs it. Laptops again uses system fans, but they only use one fan due to its compact size. So usually they have the fan directly onto the CPU, and then they have copper heatsink vents leading out to exhaust that hot air out of the system. So system fans on desktops are a little bit more efficient, and I mean it should be, because it is a bigger system and it does have more power hungry components inside of it. So that is a system fan. All right, guys, so I'm going to actually show you guys like a real life demonstration of the computer parts inside of my personal built computer. So I'm going to show you guys that right now. All right, so we're going to do the full demonstration of the parts of the inside the computer. So from right here, this is the computer case. So this is my personal built computer case right here. Going over on the side right here, we have the front of the computer case. You can see we have our disk drive right there. And we have, this is a expansion bay, or peripherals on, where it has all the memory slots and everything right there. But this is your optical drive. Right, so computer cases, like I said, they come in all sorts of different shapes and sizes. So this one right here is a full-size ATX, and they come in all sorts of shapes and sizes, and some of them, fancy, like this one has tempered glass, so you can see inside your PC. So this one, they usually open very similar. You either slide a panel off, You unscrew some bolts on the back and pull the door off. So this tempered one, we got two screws right here. So we're just gonna unscrew that for you guys so you can actually get access to the good parts inside to show you guys. Right, so you can see the door just swings wide open like that. Just want to be careful because it is tempered glass. Don't want to, crack it or shatter it. Let's get my trusty light right here. And sorry for the dust inside. All right, so this is the inside of the PC. So first things first, what are we looking at here? This is the CPU heatsink and cooler right there. Like I said, this is the cooler master. Trying to get the lighting away from it. This is the cooler master, Hyper 212 Evo. So basically what it is a giant heatsink from right here with copper fins going to the CPU down there. So this is the giant aluminum heatsink, and on the side, it's dual CPU fans. You can see right there, there's the fans. It's a dual fan setup right there. So underneath this CPU cooler is the CPU. Underneath there with some clips and stuff. Can't really see it because this is in the way, but wherever you see a CPU cooler and heatsink, right underneath it is the CPU, right? Here we go. We got some system fans right here. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and we have 2 in the front over there. So those are your system fans. This big thing right here that says GeForce GTX is our GPU. So this is the GeForce GTX. This is a older 1070 model. And get that right. You can see it has a little fan. Should I really put it a little down? Like the way it's set up right now, I can't really do that for you guys. But from right there, you can see it has a little built-in fan right there. And it says 1070. Right. Next, we got our RAM modules, which says G.Skill right there. Those are our 2 RAMs. Like I said, I always put 16 gigs minimum in my desktop machines. So these are G.Skill DDR4 RAM modules, right? And then this little thing right here, with the screws and all the circuits and stuff going all around, is your motherboard. So that's your motherboard. All this right here is the motherboard. Basically, where the GPU sits, the CPU and everything sits, is your motherboard. Everything is sit onto the motherboard. Right. We have our power supply. It is well hidden behind this casing. I don't remember if I can. Okay, yes, I can. Don't think I can slide it off now, but usually, it's behind here. It is a Corsair 650. But that's your power supply. Usually the power supply always sits on the bottom of your PC. Okay. Let me see what else we're missing here. Okay, so that's an optical drive. It is powered through, again, SATA, the interface SATA. So we're looking for our HDDs and SSDs. So all of them is right behind here in these little cases, right? This little cage right here. So I have 2 regular HDDs and I have 3 SSDs with a M2 somewhere over here. M2s is basically a different standard. It's basically an SSD, but a really small form factor. It is, I believe, what I remember is it actually had to remove the GPU to get access to the M2 SSD on the bottom over there. But right over here is the cages right here, where I have my 2 hard drives and my 3 SSDs. So usually your computer, your build, you usually have the SSDs usually right to the front where the system fans are, especially where the optical drives and expansion bays are as well. They always have them to the front. And again, these things do get hot, so hence the reason why this in the front with system fans right there. All right, so that's pretty much it with the parts inside. I'm just gonna turn it on for you guys to see how it is lit up.
So when I apply power to it from the power supply, you have this little LED RGB going on right here with the motherboard. That's Asus. Usually the Tough series gaming motherboards have the little RGB touches to it. And as I hit the power button up here with this again RGB power that lights up like that with different colors, and the system is turned on. And you can see our post lights going on over there. And you can see our system fans. We have our GPU, GeForce GTX, like I said. Let's see if that fan is. Yep, the fan is spinning. Usually, the fan doesn't spin unless there's heavy activity to it. But I guess right now, because I booted it up, it's spinning right now. So we have a system fan right there that's spinning. We have our CPU cooler fans that's spinning. Oh, that's a blue LED. Never really noticed that. Is this side? No, this is a regular color. I have our system fans up there. And we have the two system fans in the front right there. And there's our optical drive. See, it opening. Sometimes it opens, sometimes it doesn't. I don't know if because of if it's a part that worn off from it, but I don't know. Sometimes when I play around with it, there we go. It opens up like that. And over here, in front of the computer, we have just our ports right there. There's power. And yeah, that's your parts of inside a computer.
All right, guys. So that's the end of this video. I would like to thank you guys for tuning in to continue watching the computer basics for beginners and seniors. Hope I've explained everything simple to you, and I hope you guys did enjoy the video. Be sure to hit the like, drop a comment, subscribe if you are new to the channel, and thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye for now.